Could you imagine threats so secret that not even the Secret Service could detect them? Because that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. The Secret Service has come out and said, nope, Erica's a liar, and so is her mama.
So Candace Owens just exposed one of the biggest political lies of the year, and the Secret Service themselves backed her up. Erica Kirk fabricated security threats to dodge a VP event, then blamed her critics when caught. This is how narcissistic manipulation works in politics.
I had such a laugh earlier because just this entire situation at the University of Georgia, it's objectively hilarious. You kind of just sometimes have to stand back and watch it all and recognize that it's a sitcom. Turning Point USA has turned into a sitcom. Somehow Erica really thought that she was just going to get away with saying that there was this very credible threat against her life and nobody would go, oh, wait, you probably shouldn't say that with the vice president in the room. Like, you can't just say stuff.
This is basic Secret Service protocol. When you're sharing a stage with the VP, any threat against you automatically becomes a threat against them. There's no such thing as a selective assassin who only targets the opening act.
That would actually rise, if there was a credible threat against you, to a national security threat, right? You're saying, my life was at risk. Okay, what? That means that the vice president's life was also at risk. There's no way to actually separate that. So, of course, what naturally followed was there were some journalists who were alarmed, and they reached out to the White House and they reached out to the Secret Service for additional information and comment regarding this alleged threat.
Exactly right. Journalists did their job here. When someone claims credible death threats in the same venue as the vice president, that's not just celebrity drama, that's potential national security. Of course they called the White House.
This is in Barry Weiss's CBS, no less, okay? So this is like, she's got contacts at CBS, and even they had to just run this headline. Secret Service determines no credible threats to UGA rally after Erica Kirk's cancellation, the source says. Embedded in the article, it reads, the U.S. Secret Service determined there were no credible threats to Tuesday's Turning Point USA rally at the University of Georgia, even as a planned co-appearance by Erica Kirk was canceled over unspecified security concerns. A person familiar with the matter tells CBS News, according to the source, that the site was secure and there were no known threats to the protectee. That would be VP.
This is extraordinary. CBS News, not some fringe outlet, publishing Secret Service sources directly contradicting Kirk's story. Federal agencies rarely go on record like this. They were clearly offended by the implication they missed a credible threat.
Let me interpret that for you, okay? There's literally no way to separate this. When the vice president is speaking, if he's going to speak at an event and Candace Owens is going to be on stage, the federal authorities are going to be looking online for threats against Candace Owens, because you're not going to be like, oh, well, that person said they're going to kill Candace Owens, but don't worry, Veep. They're only going to go, when they're there, they're only going to kill Candace. She's interviewing you on stage, but don't worry about this threat. No, of course, they also would be looking at threats against Turning Point USA, about threats against that were being directed toward Erica Kirk. And they said this was not happening. There was a threat against Erica would have been a threat against the VP.
The logic here is bulletproof. The Secret Service monitors all threats in a VP's vicinity. Social media, phone calls, everything. If Kirk faced real danger, it would have been in their threat assessment. Their silence speaks volumes.
Right, that would imply that her security team had intel that they did not have, and the intel was deemed so credible that they decided that she could not do the event, but the Secret Service just decided to press on and to allow the VP. You're basically saying the Secret Service is not good at their job. And they said, no, we're going to come out and we're going to clarify matters. This is mortifying for Turning Point USA. This is Erica Kirk girl bossing a little too close to the sun. She's just been getting away with all these lies, making phone calls. And finally, the Secret Service just checked her. Now,
this is why the Secret Service went public. Kirk essentially accused them of professional incompetence. She implied her private security had intel the federal government missed. That's not just embarrassing, it's insulting to career professionals.
Actually, I am sure. Probably because this option was so nonsensical in my mind that it did not even occur to me to consider it. The idea that Erica could have actually been in Georgia already and that she truly canceled in the last minute after she had already been to the venue, that never even crossed my mind. I assumed wrongly that she must have been in Scottsdale, right? That's the only way to make the story work.
Here's where Kirk's story completely falls apart. If she was already in Georgia when she canceled, she was inside the Secret Service security perimeter. You can't claim credible threats from within the most secure zone in the state.
That is not what happened at all. Gratefully, I watched Baron Coleman's show last night, and he offered this option, and then we received a tip that Erica was indeed in Georgia already. And you're not going to believe how this actually went down, Erica canceling her event. So right at the top, I just want to say that us as a society, we deserve better psyops. This is starting to feel disrespectful. She is all over the place. They're all over the place. And I just want to say that we deserve better psyops.
This timeline is about to destroy every shred of Kirk's credibility. When you see where she was and when, the vanity becomes obvious. This wasn't about security. It was about ego and empty seats.
People are going to be sent ahead of him. Military guys are going to be sent ahead of him, ahead of his arrival. Of course, they don't do this on the day of, right? They're not just figuring it out with the number 2 guy in the United States. So on the day of his arrival, they already know how things are going to run, and the entire perimeter, there's going to be an entire perimeter that is set up around wherever he's traveling, right? You're not going to be able to get close to the vice president when he is traveling. So there is, in my mind, therefore, there was a 0% chance that Erica had a viable threat pertaining to her travel while she was already in Georgia. I just completely said that's not an option. It had to be in Scottsdale.
Presidential level security is established 48 hours minimum before arrival. Military sweeps, perimeter control, airport lockdowns. Once you're inside that bubble, you're safer than anywhere else in America. Kirk knew this when she flew in.
Okay, well, let's start before. On Saturday evening, Erica Kirk flew into Palm Beach because she was attending Bettina's bridal shower, which took place on Sunday. Here are some photos of her on Sunday at Bettina, soon-to-be Trump's bridal shower. She's engaged to Don Trump Jr. I instantly assessed that this was taking place on Sunday because Ivanka's there, and so is Ivanka's daughter. And that tells us that obviously it's not Saturday because Ivanka they're Orthodox. So that happened on Sunday. On Monday, Erica elected to stay in Palm Beach. On Tuesday, she flew from West Palm Beach up to Athens, Georgia for her event.
Notice the timeline. Sunday at Trump family bridal showers, Monday relaxing in Palm Beach, Tuesday flying into the VP's secure airport. Does this sound like someone fearing for their life? This is someone planning a normal business trip.
The federal government had already secured this days earlier, the private airport and the terminal, the very same one that the vice president was due to arrive in, okay? Their story is done. It's done right there. So we're going to look at the timeline from that day so that you can appreciate the audacity of the lie that they tried to sell us.
Game over. Kirk flew into the same airport the Secret Service had already swept for the VP. That means she landed in literally the most secure square mile in Georgia that day. Her entire threat narrative just evaporated.
At 1:27 p.m., Erica departed West Palm Beach for the Georgia event. At 2:40, Erica landed into Athens, Georgia. At 3:53 p.m., J.D. Vance's plane begins circling in the air above North Carolina because this is when he receives the phone call that Erica doesn't want to do the event. I'm going to assume Erica called him personally. So you can see that little loop-de-loop. We're going to come down here. Maybe we're like, yeah. And he just starts, I don't know if we're going to do this event. I'll show you a clip of him admitting, thankfully, Barron put me onto this, that it was 2 hours before he got onto stage. So that's 3:53. He's circling in the air. He gets the phone call.
Look at this timeline. Kirk was safely on the ground for over an hour before she canceled. What changed? Not her security situation. That was locked down by federal agents. Something else spooked her, and it wasn't assassins.
So into the same airport as Erica. There's no threat. No threat. There's nobody waiting at the airport that was like, oh, no, you're good. I know you boys are with J.D. Vance, the vice president. I'm actually, I'm only here for Erica. I'm only going to harm Erica. 5:00 p.m., the Y-Refi guy who's around too much, he opens now every tour stop and pitches Y-Refi while he opened this event at 5 p.m. And it looks certainly like he acknowledges Erica on stage and looks to the left. He says her name and he says, thank you, Erica. I'm going to show you the clip because it signals to me that Erica was just off to the left off stage.
So Kirk was backstage when the event started, close enough to be acknowledged by the host, in a building secured by the Secret Service. And somehow this was too dangerous? The only threat here was to her ego.
She was in the building and she was backstage where people could not see her. Okay. And what likely happened was they had assessed that people were not showing up and Erica was going into a meltdown. Barron even pointed out the fact that Andrew was dressed way too casually, and Andrew is like very metrosexual, that he was just dressed way too casually to interview JD Vance. Like, this literally all had to happen last second because Andrew Colvett does know how to dress appropriately for venues. He would not have been dressed like that to interview the vice president. And so this last minute thing was Erica was already at the venue. She realized nobody was coming and she wanted to cancel the event.
This is the real story. Kirk saw the sparse crowd and couldn't handle the embarrassment. Rather than tough it out like a professional, she manufactured a security crisis to save face. Pure narcissistic damage control.
Erica did not leave Athens until 6:39 p.m. She departed Athens and she headed back for Scottsdale. So that's a long time that she was there. Okay, Erica was there for 4 hours. And there was, as the Secret Service determined, no credible threat. They would not have ignored a serious threat against Erica Kirk because that would mean there was a serious threat against the vice president. She was interviewing him. You don't separate that.
4 hours. She stayed 4 hours in a place where she claimed to face credible death threats. You don't grab dinner and hang out where assassins are supposedly lurking. This timeline makes her story laughably absurd.
I don't care if I have to be public enemy number one. Erica Kirk is malevolent. She is malevolent. You have to accept that because it's not only that she's capable of lying to us. Okay, she does it often. It's the manner in which she does it. There is always a bend toward evil. Okay, let me explain what I mean. Tons of people that lie. There are people who literally have to lie for a living, PR agents, right? They have to kind of always tell us a white lie, and usually it is to afford some protection to their client.
This distinction is crucial. Most people lie defensively to protect themselves or others, but Kirk lies offensively, weaponizing false victim narratives to attack critics and dodge accountability. That's a different psychological profile entirely.
Okay? To throw a chair out of a bar window and then to direct your public relations team to tell the vice president that you did it because there was an immediate threat to your safety in that bar. And that's ultimately the result of deranged fans online that comment every time you sing a good country song and you threw that chair because you needed the fastest route to get back to your kids at home. Oh, I'm sorry. Now it's our fault that he threw a chair? Okay, that's weird. It's a little bit psychopathic. Only a very specific breed of a human could muster the shamelessness that it takes to abandon your public commitment. You committed that you were going to be there. You then decided you didn't want to do it. And to be clear, out of an act of vanity, you decided you didn't want to do it.
The analogy is perfect. Imagine throwing a chair through a window, then blaming the crowd outside for making you feel unsafe. That's exactly Kirk's playbook. Create chaos, then blame everyone else for the mess you made.
You guys failed to protect me. That's why I'm not here tonight. That's vicious. That's malevolent. I continue to underscore what Elizabeth Lane, the reporter, stated in her post, that in her opinion, Erica Kirk exhibits the attributes of a psychopath. That's psychopathic thinking to turn it around on other people because you made a decision. And by the way, I want to be clear,
This is textbook manipulation. Fabricate victimhood to deflect from personal failure, then attack anyone who questions the narrative. It's not just lying, it's psychological warfare against your own audience. Truly sociopathic behavior.
We're not speaking about politics, where literally it was a prayer. She made personal phone calls and she cried on the phone. Okay. JD Vance's energy is giving that Erica cried on the phone. I think that when JD Vance's plane was circling, of course, Erica would have called him directly. She would not have done that via a third party person, out of respect. I think she was on the phone with him. She cried, right? His energy is like the male, I need to protect a woman in distress.
This explains JD Vance's defensive reaction perfectly. Kirk weaponized fake vulnerability, the oldest manipulation in the book. She probably invoked her kids, her late husband, anything to trigger his protective instincts. Classic predatory behavior.
She didn't want to speak. She dealt with JD, and then she directed Andrew to make up a sinister lie. We're not going to call it, it's a sinister lie, right? I think JD on the phone probably tried to assure her the Secret Service already swept everything, you're going to be fine. And then she did something along the, I'm sorry, my family. And he was completely understanding because why wouldn't he be? She's dropping I don't want my kids to be an orphan, which is what he implies on stage. that the Secret Service had things under control, but that he understood that she needed to do what was right for her family. That's my best read on the situation. I think Erica is calculated. And I want to say to JD Vance, you better wake up fast, okay? That's a black widow, my friend. You will get bit. And you should probably consult your wife on this matter.
The warning here is spot on. Kirk is a master manipulator who exploits good men's protective instincts. Vance got played because he's decent enough to believe a crying woman claiming death threats. That's exactly how predators operate.
That is humiliating for JD because he was manipulated. But it also represents a PR crisis of epic proportions for Erica, make no mistake. And I think it is obvious that they have some crisis PR person. And Andrew was sort of made to step aside because what an idiot for not thinking that would backfire when you loop in the executive office into this absurdity. And it looks like they hired someone probably in the last 24 hours, judging by this article that I just read, which I'm going to show you because this is the first time that the PR was kind of good here.
The Secret Service leak forced Turning Point to abandon their usual gaslighting strategy. When federal law enforcement calls you a liar, even the best PR team has to pivot to damage control. Truth finally caught up with them.
Kirk has faced criticism from some online commentators who felt that her return to public life after Charlie's death was too swift or that her appearances struck the wrong tone. A close confidant told the Daily Mail, quote, "She is aware of how she is coming across. She's not stupid. She has seen the online comments. She gets it. It hurts. Last month, the backlash reached a new level after a viral video by a comedian Drewski mocked Kirk's behavior after her husband's killing, featuring exaggerated expressions and fake tears. The insider continued, the Drewski video showed her what people thought of her. She's really hurt that people are feeling this way about her, that they're mocking her. She pulled out of the TPUSA event because of a bunch of factors. I don't think it was just security concerns, the source said. If there were security concerns, the vice president wouldn't have gone."
Finally, an admission of truth from Turning Point. Kirk pulled out because of low ticket sales, online mockery, and wounded pride. Not death threats, not security concerns, just bruised ego. The Drewski video really got to her.
It was also mental exhaustion of like, nothing I do will be right and people will make fun of me, so she canceled. Okay, so it was because there were low ticket numbers and you thought that you would be made fun of. The writer also recaps that in the weeks that followed Charlie's assassination, she returned to the public eye, appearing at events and speaking engagements despite her grief. Critics, however, claim that her behavior came across as performative or unnatural. And the insider says, quote, "She says that she was putting on a face, a brave face, and that's why she was doing what she was doing. I agree that it was a bad look. Everyone told her it was a bad look, but she did it anyway. I know she's mourning Charlie, we all are, but she just has a funny way of showing it. Do I think that she's mourning enough? That's not for me to say. But do I think that she's coming across badly? Yes. That much is obvious. And finally, she's starting to see how weird it all looked. That's a good thing."
This is remarkable. Turning Point actually admitting they've been gaslighting the public, that Kirk's behavior has been weird, and that their lies aren't working. Someone with actual PR skills finally took control. Progress through pressure.
We are catching them in the lies and they keep lying. What Andrew Kovacs should have to apologize. He should apologize to the vice president. I'm sorry to say, but this feels like a win. Right? We got to take it where we can get it. This feels like a win. Like at long last, someone said it's not working and we need to pivot. And that's because we have kept up the pressure and we have clocked them on every single lie.
Exactly. This is what happens when you maintain pressure and refuse to let lies slide. Kirk's manipulation tactics finally hit a wall when the Secret Service pushed back. Truth wins when good people refuse to stay silent.
And it's very interesting. It's interesting because of everything we just learned about him, and you wonder where he got that information. It's at least relevant enough to plot on our timeline, is it not? I think so. Victor Marks was the first person who announced that Charlie went to heaven, is what he said. I'm going to show you that post right here. And the person who sent this to us, they sent it to us in Eastern Standard Time. Fortunately, they had it screenshot. Their buddy sent it to them, and it showed us the timeline. But it says here, Victor Marks wrote, "Pray for Eric."
Victor Marks announcing Charlie Kirk's death within 50 minutes raises serious questions. How did he know so quickly? Who was his source? Given his alleged intelligence connections, this timing looks increasingly suspicious on our timeline.
So that is less than an hour after Charlie was shot. Erica Kirk's dear friend Victor Marks announced that he had died. That's just 50 minutes after Charlie was shot. Who told him? I feel like that is early, and we should plot that here, revisit our minute-by-minute timeline from September 10th and see where that falls exactly, because it's almost like he knew with Erica.
50 minutes is incredibly fast for news to travel, especially death confirmation. Marks posted before most major news outlets even reported the shooting. Either he had inside information or remarkable sources. Both possibilities are concerning given the circumstances.
I believe the government, our government was involved. I believe foreign governments were involved as well, that this hit was allowed to go through, and that Charlie Kirk was removed as a barrier to the Iranian war. That is my opinion based off of everything that I have looked at, and that many people are now engaged in a cover-up. And I also believe that they're all going to get caught. So there is that. Happy, optimistic message.
With Trump now back in office and Iran tensions escalating, this assassination theory gains credibility. Charlie Kirk was indeed a major voice against foreign wars. His elimination right before potential Iran conflict looks less coincidental by the day.